What's good, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Land Grant Podcast, I-80 Football Show. As always, I'm your host, Jordan. I'm here with my co-host, Dante.
Hey man, how's it going? Oh, I know how it's going.
I'm tired. Also, I, first of all, let's just get this out the way. I'm not talking about Ohio State, Michigan. I'm protecting my mental health. I'm protecting my peace.
Nah, you started a podcast. That's a contradiction. You don't get to do that.
No, I do. I went on a 17-minute rant on my other podcast. It was timed. If you would like to hear my thoughts on Ohio State, Michigan, you should listen to the Power 2 podcast. I don't know that it was exactly 17 minutes. That's the time that was given to me, but it probably was 17 minutes. So, I will let you say whatever you want to. My only thoughts, and this will be the only thing that I say about this, is I literally, when we previewed this, when we talked about it, I just said, this should be easy. Ryan Day's the coach. When I gave my prediction, I specified this is not a Ryan Day take. It was about the players. And for the most part, I think the players played well. You can never trust a Ryan Day team. I did not buy back in. I will never buy back in. I want him fired. He's not going to be fired unless they lose in the first round. And even then, he may not be fired. So what to do? What to say? All I know is that this was entirely predictable if you only focus on the coach. If you looked at literally anything else, Ohio State should have ran this team off the field.
Yeah.
Look at the coach.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious because I was watching the clip that you put out, and you literally said, Ryan Day, he coaches weird against Michigan. He makes weird decisions. He coaches scared. But honestly, should have never just put the but. So just kept it there.
Should have kept it there.
If we would have kept it there, we both would have predicted this correctly. So
we both I commented on it and said I was stupid because I had everything. I said everything right. I knew deep down I wanted to pick Michigan and still picked Ohio State.
The worst part about it for me, Michigan didn't play well.
No,
like that's the thing that blew me, right? Like if Michigan played their best game of the season and it was competitive, they played like shit. Like
there was several times where I wasn't on the phone, but there was a few times where I would look down, look up, ball switched. I was like, didn't Michigan just have the ball? What the heck?
Yeah.
Or I'd be like, didn't Ohio State just have the ball? What the heck? But most of the time, it was like with Michigan, I would look down and look up. They already gave the ball right back to Ohio State.
I tweeted, I was texting my friend because I was trying to stay off Twitter. And I was trying to do the math in my head. And I was like, Michigan's 2 scoring drives was for a total of like 3 to 5 yards. And then like 10 minutes of real time later, it came up on the screen that it was 5 yards. Their touchdown was 2 yards. And then the field goal, they got 3 yards. 5 total yards, 10 points. They had one drive.
They had 2 long drives,
but the one ended up in an interception.
Yeah,
and then the other one,
even that was a stupid pick. He was open if he threw it on time.
Yeah,
and he didn't throw it on time.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the most disappointing thing about this, right? Because ultimately, I don't really care about, like, I care so much, but like, it's the most disappointing thing for me is that all of these players said they wanted to win this game for Ryan Day. They kept talking about how hard this was for them. They kept talking about how much they love him and his family and how much this meant to them to do it for him. Like, legitimately, so many players said, I want to do this for him.
Yeah.
For him to let them down again. That's the worst part for me. Like, you can talk about Will Howard. He was probably concussed, if we're being honest. I think he was playing concussed.
Okay.
Because he played horribly. He hadn't played that bad. He was missing throws. I genuinely think he was playing concussed. But even if he wasn't, you could
I
say
will
that he
say
had
that.
a
I was
bad
gonna say
game.
I will say that for the amount of flack that Will was getting for that game, I know it's probably the worst. It's got to be the worst time to have your a bad game, but he has not played bad. Like, he doesn't deserve the job all season into
Right.
that game. And here you are saying that you think he played concussed. That makes
And
sense.
even
I
then,
still said he was going to throw a pick early regardless.
Yeah, but even then, he did enough to win. Right? Like even how bad he played, even if he was concussed, he did enough to win. If no,
and I was going to say, I was going to agree with you and be like, with what he was told to do, yes, he played good enough to win. If that's the game plan that they went out there with, yes.
And what, like, this podcast, and you are my witness. How many times have I brought up the fact that Ryan Day did not get a kicker this offseason?
Yep.
We weren't even kicking. I'm not even sure if our kicker has kicked 10 total field goals this year.
No.
And I brought it up like every other week because it just sits in the back of my mind. Literally every time I see another kicker make a 50-yarder, I'm just like, I know our kicker can't do it. And I'm like, it just comes up on this podcast in the most random reasons. And then we lose it because, again, right? If the entire script goes the same, but Ryan Day has a better kicker, we win 16-13. It's an ugly win, but you win because he missed 2 kicks.
I also think if he coaches the same way, because I do think if Will Howard was given, I have to say, more opportunities.
No, you're right. You're right, because they ran the ball too much. You're right to say if he was given more opportunities.
If he was given, I think he would probably have played better.
Yeah,
but they ran the ball too much, and even then it worked. They ran the ball too much in the wrong time at the wrong time, because there were certain times like the running the ball was working, and then you went away from it, and then
you ran the one play that they've been stopping the whole time, so you would get 4 yards and then lose 6, and it's like, why the fuck did you run that? I think for me the most disappointing thing is they talked so much about wanting to do this for Ryan Day. He let them down again. He's a fucking loser. He needs to quit. He's not going to quit. He needs to be fired. They're not going to fire him. And it's just I will always root for the Buckeyes. Like I won't, but I think, and to be honest, this is not surprising, right? Ohio State has a new, and I think I know I've talked about this. Maybe it was on Twitter, maybe it wasn't. Ohio State has a new a new athletic director. As much as it should have happened, I did not believe he would fire Ryan Day in year 1. I still don't believe he'll fire Ryan Day in year 1. So what is most likely going to happen is next year, which is year 2, when he gets to say, well, I personally, as the athletic director, have given you 2 years, have upgraded your facilities, have given you this NIL money. When you lose again, then I think he gets fired, which is hella disappointing for us. Which is hella disappointing because he should be fired now.
Yeah, if they don't fire, it puts out the thought process of 5 in a row.
And Jesus. Oh God. I can't even stomach the thought of 5 in a row right now. So we're moving on. I don't want to talk about this. This is just fucking. Oh God. I hope no one in Ryan Day's universe stumbles across this podcast, because I will not let him breathe this offseason. Like any mistake that he makes, because here's the thing, right? Like, at the end of the day, if they're not going to fire him, he has to win. The thing is, there are a lot of potential holes in this roster. So I've already generated the list of things that he needs to do, even if he didn't lose to Michigan, but especially if he did. It's going to be an angry offseason. Like, I don't know where the happiness is coming from. So, but it's a good thing. As much as I podcast, as much as I talk about sports, as much as everything else, it's a good thing that Ohio State is not my identity, because if it was, oh God, if I didn't have other things in my life, and this is not a shame to people who are like that, But if I didn't have other things in my life, but I do want to move on because especially today in particular, I don't want to be on the podcast super long. Can I tell you something, Dante?
What's up?
Do you know what I did after that loss?
Drink?
Yes, I did. But you know what else I did?
What's that?
I didn't watch football the rest of the day. Yeah, so that is not entirely true, and that I put the Texas A&M game on my iPad at the 7:30 game. But the only reason I put it on is because that game hadn't been played in 13 years, and if it was a really good game, I was like, I don't want to miss history.
Yeah,
it wasn't a good game. But I literally and I have to be careful how I say this because like I joke and things, and I don't want it I don't want people to be like, he doesn't like his wife, whatever. But like, I literally turned off my TV and I went out and me and my wife finished watching Cross on Amazon Prime. And then after that, we watched, I don't know, like Criminal Minds or something. And then so the game ends at 3:30. I missed all the 3:30 games. We were watching Cross. If you haven't watched Cross, great show on Amazon Prime. And then after that, we just put on like Criminal Minds or something, and for like our millionth rewatch. And then when the Texas game came on, I put that on my iPad. But I didn't go back into my office at all. And you all, if you've been listening to this, you know that I watch 5 games at once. I have 2 TVs. I stopped watching football. I was so annoyed. I don't even know if I can call it upset anymore at 4 in a row. I was so annoyed and in awe that I couldn't watch football. I literally tried to watch the next game and I was like, this is not fun. I just walked out of my office.
Well, so when they kicked the field goal, my jaw dropped because I was like, wow. Because the whole time I was just like, if you don't score soon, you're probably gonna lose this game, Ohio State.
Yeah,
and not a field goal. You got to score a touchdown because if you score a touchdown, Michigan's not going to be able to score a touchdown.
Yeah, but a field goal, their kicker can kick from 56.
Yeah, they could kick it. I was like, and then they got the ball, and then when the long drive happened, I was like, not again. Like in my eyes, I was like, not again. You're giving up on defense in the fourth quarter. Not again.
So
hold on. But then they get the interception. So I was like, okay, they was just panicking in a way. Like it wasn't like giving up. It's more like, oh, we got to get off the field. We got it. Like we have to. And it was like, then we got the play. And then the offense comes on the field. And 3 and out blew my mind. And I was like, for a yard. They got a yard on that drive. Or I think it was like 4 yards.
Yep, it was 4.
It was 4 yards and they punted it. And I was like, I don't know. I might go for this. Like in my head, I was like, I might have to go for this.
So
because they took that drive before you got the interception started with like 3 or 4 minutes in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And we dropped to like 7 minutes in the fourth.
Yeah.
So I was like, bro, if y'all punt this away, you might not ever get the ball back.
Yeah. So I disagree with your framing of the defense giving up as much as
I turned it. I stopped it. But at first, I was like, not again. That's what started to go through my head for a second.
No, I know. I'm agreeing with you. I just didn't disagree with the framing because how I feel it is like I don't think the defense gives up when these things happen as much as just right. If you play defense 10 series, right?
Yeah.
And you're probably going to have one bad series. Mm-hmm. Now, why for Ohio State does it always happen in the fourth quarter? I don't know. But there's always the one.
That's usually when you're the most tired, and if you're on the field that long.
And Ohio State does not rotate, especially on the defensive line. So the defensive line no longer gets pressure, and these long drives happen. Again, I was texting my friend because I was trying not to tweet too much. I literally texted him, like you were saying. You said not again. I literally texted him and I said, this is the drive in every game that Ohio State loses that they give up a touchdown. And if they give up a touchdown on this drive, game's over. And they go down there and they get to the red zone. And then I'm watching the play because, and I hope you all who are listening to this do this, but I know a lot of people don't because it's hard with the camera angles. When you watch football, you should almost never watch the quarterback. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at the screen. I see the tight end. I'm watching him
Why?
naked. And I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Naked.
And it wasn't even a call. I don't know what the fuck possessed Jack Sawyer. I literally think he realized because they did it in slow motion. He didn't have a good rush. He looks around. I think he sees the guy and he just drops. He just drops. And it's an interception. And I was like, Jack, for those of you who are not Ohio State fans, Jack Sawyer is one of the main reasons everybody came back. Like, he was the first one to announce coming back. He convinced a lot of them to come back. He's a kid from Columbus. So I'm like, for this kid to make this play and then Ohio State win the game, that's legendary. And I immediately lost before the Dante. I immediately lost hope. I immediately lost hope when the first play of that drive was a run. And it got 4 yards. But when the first play of that drive was a run, I said, you haven't learned anything all game. Immediately, as soon as it happened, all the joy of the intercept, as soon as the first play was a run, I said, you haven't learned anything.
Honestly, you could feel it in the stadium when they ran the ball after the interception.
Yeah.
You could feel the despair.
Everyone's just like, oh.
Yeah, you could feel the despair. And here's the thing, right? Jack Sawyer should have never got that interception.
No.
He should have never got it.
The quarterback's bad.
Yeah.
Like, literally, it's only because the quarterback's bad.
As soon as the play happened, I was like,
5 seconds.
When the play happened, I was like, oh, he's open. Oh, he's open. And then he threw it late, and I was like,
he's open. He's like, yeah.
He threw a pick. I was like, no, because he's open.
And then even when he threw the pick, if he lofted it,
it's not a pick.
He just tried to throw.
He threw a bullet.
Yeah.
He threw a bullet.
But not a fast one.
Yeah, it wasn't a good enough one.
Lineman caught it. Like,
he threw a bullet that wasn't hard enough. You're right. If he does lob
it's probably at least if he lobs it's a touchdown. If it's a harder pass, it's probably incomplete because it's
incomplete, and we could go for second and goal now. Yeah, that was first and goal. Yeah. Like, so yeah, I couldn't believe it. And when they punted the ball away, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm going for it on 4th and 6 where I'm at. Because I know at the very least my defense could probably get the turnover, or they're kicking a field goal. They're not good enough on offense.
Right. And even if they kick a field goal, because you don't punt and they don't get the 10 minutes to drive
down the field.
It's going to be 3 plays. It's going to take 2 minutes off the clock. They kick a field goal. You still have 6 minutes or whatever to just go get a touchdown. It's
at the end of the day. I'm sorry. Because that's exactly what happened. I think 48 seconds left when you got the ball.
Yeah, it's just I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think Day's a good guy. I think he's a good coach. He's not.
It's time for a new scenery. It's time for a new scenery.
He can't. This job is too big for him.
Both need something new. Both need something new.
But I feel like it's not going to happen until 2025.
Yeah,
because Ohio State hates me. Like, Ohio State hates me, and they're going to make the decision 1 year too late. The only, if I want to be positive, and boy, I don't want to, if I want to be positive about keeping him for 1 more year, I think because of the way contracts are and things like that, we've already talked about it, and this will be a good transition to the coaching carousel. There are going to be way more people ready to move on, and the hiring cycle is going to be bigger next year. So you may have a better chance at getting a better coach. I don't believe that because you're Ohio State. I think there's maybe 3 coaches in the country you couldn't lure from their job. And it's really 2.5. It's really 1.5. Because I think if you call, or 2.5, I think if you view these as the best coaches, and I don't know if you do, but if you say Kirby Smart, Steve Sarkisian at Texas, Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, and Dan Lanning at Oregon, if those are your 4, you think those are the best coaches, or they have the biggest names, they kind of fit the criteria of being good coaches, young enough, and at big jobs, right? Because I like the Kenny Dillingham, who's at Arizona State. They're not hiring him, right? Like they're probably going to hire someone with a certain level of status, whatever. If you say that those 4, I don't believe you get through all 4 without one of them taking the job. Kirby Smart's off the list. He's never leaving Georgia. I think with enough money It wouldn't be easy, but I think with enough money, you can convince Sark to leave Texas. I think with enough money, you can convince Dan Lanning to leave Oregon. Not saying it's guaranteed, but it's possible. And with enough, and I
It'd
think
be hard if they win a championship or win the
right,
Big Ten. It'd be
right.
really, really hard
And I
to
think
have.
the last one is, I think Marcus Freeman takes the job no matter what.
Oh yeah.
The only
I
way
would
he
leave.
doesn't take the job is if he just really loves Notre Dame because he's a Catholic and like a religious kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which you can't. I mean, you can't help that, right? But like, I think if you call those four, one of them takes the job. So like, I don't even think you have to go that far down the list. So I really don't think it matters.
Would you look at NFL? Not even look around college?
No. I think there's too much that's changed in college football just in the last 2 years that to expect an NFL guy to come in, I just don't think that's realistic. Especially at Ohio State, everyone talks about Vrabel and all these things. I don't see it personally. I think the NFL guy would have to be insanely connected. I also think he would have to give up control of his staff. Like if you did an NFL guy, it would 100% have to be like CEO, and you tell him who to keep, and then you like give him a short list of who he can hire. Because I genuinely just don't believe he knows the right people who can do what you need to do in college football right now. So I don't know. That was 20 minutes. I didn't want to talk about Ohio State at all, but
anyways, you knew it was gonna have to happen.
I know. The last thing I want to say about this, and I think this is indicative of Ryan Day. What the one thing of the weekend that has stuck with me the most, and he said it multiple times. He has said multiple times, I was in shock. I didn't think this was possible. And that's
I ain't gonna. Yeah, that is why you lost. But I can fully understand why he feels that way.
I can't.
I wouldn't expect this. I didn't expect this.
Expect and think it's possible are two different things. I genuinely think, and let me make the case, I genuinely think he never thought he could lose. Because he never thought he could lose, that's where the bad game plan comes from. Right?
Yeah, that's fair.
If you like think about Oregon, right? You're like, damn, we can lose this game. We need a unique play, right? We need the Oregon, the onside kick. You need the squib kick. Like you come up with like, we need to do this concept. Like we really have to be really smart here, right? Like Indiana, we might lose this game. Let's put Caleb Downs at punt returner, which he hasn't done all the time, right? And you start to look for these little edges. I think when you don't even consider the possibility of losing, it makes you just do anything. And so I think he thought, I'm going to win this game no matter what. Let me shove it down their throat. Let me win. Let me be tough. Let me like really just like, whatever. And because he didn't think about that there was a chance that he could lose, that's where the bad game plan came from. I can fully see. I don't think they were invested in championship.
I'm not excusing it, but I can fully understand why you would think that. I wouldn't think I would lose.
You're human. I get it. You're human, but you just as the best football coaches manufacture things. Like the best football coaches manufacture, and he just doesn't have it.
Because even then, your motivation should have been the fact that you lost 3 times regardless. Even if you don't think you can lose this game, the fact that you lost the 3 should have been enough to be like, bro, we need to put a stop.
And I genuinely think a lot of what happened came from the fact that he didn't think he could lose. And he said he was in shock after the game. I think he was in shock during the game. It's why he didn't adjust.
I would say he was definitely in shock during the game because I'm telling you, their first score, I bet you as soon as Michigan scored, he was in shock.
Yeah, and
had no idea what to do.
And so
because it lasted 10-10 for way too long.
Yeah, and so I think that because he said it multiple times, he didn't even think losing was possible. When the game got tough, he couldn't adjust, and that is another problem. And if you look at it like that, there are a lot of games where you can see that Ryan Day had a script in his mind of what he thought was going to happen, and when it doesn't happen, he doesn't know how to react.
But then, it's weird because the one thing that did he's had several games in this year where it's like it came down to a play or something, or especially like a goal line stand. Penn State, what, twice? Oregon, it happened before they gave up the lead. But they do what they need to do to pull out the win. It's so you would think even with it happening here with a team, you've done it with against better teams.
It's
You did
it's a
it.
it's a mind thing with Michigan. I think once he realized that losing was a possibility, his body shut down. It's like he just
Because I think there was a
it's like the thought of like, oh my god, I could lose it 4 times, and
it's
then
just
just
so
boom,
weird because
shut
there's
down, nothing
how it
happened.
doesn't show. It didn't show up against Oregon, and you haven't beaten Oregon in like 2 years, but it didn't show up in that game. It didn't show up in Penn State, and several times you could have lost that game, but it never shows up in Penn State. Especially this last one, you could have lost that game. Where's if you could turn that fear off for those games again, teams that are much better and I think have more play more weight than technically in the grand scheme of things have more weight to you than the Michigan game. In a bubble, the Michigan game is the most important game. I give you that. It is. But in the grand scheme of things, Oregon, Indiana, and Penn State was more important.
Listen, I think Ryan Day is going to be a great coach at North Carolina. And he's not taking the North Carolina job because that's open right now. But like insert that level of job, I just don't think he has it for Ohio State. Okay, so let's go let's take a break. Let's go to commercial. We'll come back, finish the coaching carousel, and then we will, do what we do and knock out the rest of this podcast. So we will be right back. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Land Grant Podcast Network's I-80 football show. Dante tricked me. You got me talking about Ohio State.
It's the game. What did you think was going to happen? I watched my game. I watched Alabama, Oregon, and Oregon, Alabama, Auburn. I watched that game. It was entertaining for like 2 quarters. Just about.
Yeah. All right. So coaching carousel update, and I may have missed some things because it's a lot to track, but I tried to get the things that I could remember. Matt Entz, who is USC's linebacker coach, is now the head coach at Fresno. We talked about this all offseason when I was talking about how I think that I think that Lincoln Riley built his staff wrong because he built his staff with a bunch of people who not eventually immediately wanted to either be a defensive coordinator again or a head coaching gig. And this is the first one. College football has this really weird thing where it's hard to, like, if you've never coached at the FBS level, it's hard to get a job. So even though this guy had been a pretty successful head coach, no one hired him. So he did 1 season at the FBS level as a linebackers coach. Now he's a head coach. Does it make sense? I mean, no, but that's what happened. So, I mean, we knew that he was going to get a job. We knew that this is how they view and treat the sport. So that happened. Joe Harizmiak, I don't know. Not exactly sure, but he was the defensive coordinator at Minnesota, and he is now the defensive coordinator at Rutgers. He just got offered the UMass job, so he is going to be a head coach at UMass. Michigan fired their offensive coordinator, which needed to happen. I think the interesting thing about Michigan is that I don't think they're going to fire enough coaches. And so it'll be interesting to see where they're at next year. But at least firing the offensive coordinator was necessary. Speaking of offensive coordinators, Nebraska made it official and hired Dana Holgorsen to a 2-year deal. That was guaranteed to happen. If y'all remember, he came in November, and he was essentially an analyst for 1 week. They really liked him, and they made him the offensive coordinator for the rest of November. His offense led to them winning getting to bowl eligibility. And so it was, if you paid attention, it was pretty much guaranteed that he was going to get that job. And he is a former head coach who wants to be a head coach again. So Nebraska was not going to let him leave the room. He got a 2-year deal. Purdue fired head coach Ryan Walters, which means he's going to go back to being one of the best defensive coordinators in the country at whoever decides to hire him.
Why do I feel like I read that they fired a coordinator first and then fired the head coach?
They did, but that was earlier in the season.
Okay.
Coordinator.
Okay. I'm like, why is that in my head? All right, that's why.
Yeah. If anyone is smart, Nebraska should hire him. If they're smart.
Oh my God, yes.
If they're smart. And Nebraska needs him to finish up the coaching updates because Florida State hired away Nebraska's defensive coordinator to be their defensive coordinator.
We all know Chip Kelly probably won't be back next year.
Well, he's a defensive guy, so.
No, I know, but I would still say Ohio State. I really would.
I like our defensive coordinator.
I ain't saying any bad. Yeah, no, I get it. I just, yeah. I was going to ask you. I know you don't want to talk about Ohio State. Do you think Chip Kelly is back next year?
I do, because I don't think, right, people understand.
He coached pretty well, so.
Yeah, I think that, I think there's two things. Mm-hmm. I think Chip Kelly genuinely does not want to be a head coach right now. I think the itch could come back in 2 or 3 years, but I think he stepped down from that job because he had a new itch, and that was he wanted to coach players again. And as a head coach, you don't really get to do that.
Yeah, you don't get to.
And so I think Chip Kelly's here. If Ryan Day lasts, which knock on wood he doesn't, if Ryan Day's here, I think Chip Kelly's here for at least 2 more seasons, and then maybe he gets the itch and goes and gets another program. But I think that I think that he's definitely here next year. I think the only changes, because I like Ohio State staff for the most part, I think the only changes Ohio State makes to its staff is I think they fire both the offensive and defensive line coach. Although the defensive line coach, they'll probably let him retire because he's ancient and a legend. But I think they get rid of them. Okay. And I think everyone else probably comes back. And to be honest, everyone else is fine. It's the offense and defensive line coach, both on the field and recruiting. I think the defensive line coach is absolutely gone, and it's essentially he's gone because one, he hasn't been good, but also part of the reason the defense hasn't reached its level is they have been a war amongst the defensive coordinator and defensive line coach, because the defensive line coach is real old school and wants a straight 4-down line front. And Ryan Day literally, I'm going to read the quote very quickly if I can find it. Ryan Day, and basically the defensive coordinator, he comes from a system where he mixes 4- and 3-down line fronts, and he also has like a stand-up guy who roams. Ryan Day said, Ohio State brought in different types of athletes on the defensive line because it may want to change some things up with its front in the future. I think all these guys can make a difference early in the process. We wanted to bring in some guys with different skill sets that may not fit the prototype of the guys we've seen in the past. The prototype of the past is what your defensive line coach liked. He's gone. And he's 74. Like, go hang with your grandkids. Like, you know what I mean? I think they retire him instead of actually firing him. Yeah. And then the offensive line coach brought in 3 recruits. It hasn't been good. So I think he's gone. So, yeah. But yeah, I think that's a carousel update. There's a couple of teams. It's hard to keep track of. There's a couple of teams we talked about earlier who like fired coordinators and things like that. So I'll try to keep track as these things come up, and we'll try to talk about them each week as we start to get some, as we start to get some hirings and things like that. There's going to be some delayed things, right? You never know if anyone off of Indiana, Penn State, or technically, I guess Ohio State, but or Oregon gets hired for other jobs and things like that. So this would be an off-season thing, and then you also most likely, which we'll get to soon, have those 4 teams in the playoffs. So this will be going on.
Yeah, we'll start to hear real cuts and stuff probably once the season comes to a close, or we figure out what teams truly are. Once we figure out bowl game or bowl matchups, is probably when we'll start hearing stuff like that.
Yep. So moving on to the standings, final standings in the Big Ten. Mainly final regular season standings in the Big Ten. Oregon finishes at 12-0, 9-0 in the conference. Indiana and Penn State are both 11-1, 8-1 in conference. Ohio State is 10-2, 7-2 in conference. Illinois had a great year. They're 9-3, 6-3 in conference. Iowa's 8-4, 6-3.
Impressive by the Iowa and the next name you're about to say. Honestly,
yeah. Michigan goes 7-5. Minnesota and Michigan go 7-5. They were 5-4 in conference.
Rutgers too.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say
yeah.
Rutgers is 7-5. They were 4-5 in conference. Rutgers, wanted to go 8-4, but 7-5. This is 7-5 is the first time in over a decade that Rutgers has won 7 games in the regular season. Like they've gotten to 6-6 and won that bowl game occasionally, but this is the first time they've won 7 games in the regular season. That's still a huge season for them. And then to wrap up, bowl eligible teams, USC, Washington, and Nebraska are all 6-6. This is huge for Washington after losing 20 of their 22 starters, getting a new coach. This is huge for Nebraska after not making a bowl game since 2016, I believe it was. USC treaded water. But I mean, we are not surprised. We said if you went 7-5 with the best quarterback Lincoln Riley's ever had, you're going to a new conference. All of these changes.
Yeah,
what do you expect?
Yeah, the fact that you made a bowl game, you're lucky.
Yes, basically, be happy you got to 6-6. And then to wrap, so if you were counting, which you probably weren't, because why would you? That is 12 teams. So 12 of the 18 teams went bowling. I think that's a very solid year for the conference. Michigan State, UCLA, Wisconsin.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at stuff. Washington was 0-5 on the road.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. yeah. They won all their games at home, lost all their games on the road. Michigan State, UCLA, Wisconsin all went 5-7. That's fine for Michigan State. That's fine for UCLA. Wisconsin, that is not what you wanted when you hired Luke Fickell. He better figure it out. I don't think he's at risk of being fired because I don't think they fired 2 coaches in 3 years, but that is not what you want. He has a lot to do. I know he fired his offensive coordinator. I don't think he fired the defensive coordinator. I don't know if the defense was really the problem, but not great. They ended the year on a 5-game losing streak.
Yes, they did.
So
yes, they did.
That is very bad. That is tied for the longest losing streak. The other team that, oh my God. You remember when I was down on Maryland and I thought I was tripping? I was not tripping.
Yeah,
Maryland also finished the season on a 5-game losing streak. Maryland was 1-8 in the conference. Oh my God. That's bad. Maryland Northwestern finished at 4-8, and then Purdue.
They still figured out. That's the crazy part. 1-8 in the conference, and they still found a way. All their losses are in the conference, and which is hilarious. But they still found a way to find 3 other wins where Purdue couldn't find.
They could only find one. Purdue were 1-11. So, and Purdue lost 11 straight. They won their first game
and lost. Yeah,
lost 11 straight. So
Jeez.
That is tough.
Very tough.
Gonna run down some awards really quickly because it is award season. They dropped the All Big Ten teams, starting with quarterback. Dylan Gabriel is first team. Curtis Rourke is second team. Will Howard is third team. Running back, speaking of you were happy with Iowa, uh, Caleb Johnson,
Yeah.
Iowa's running back, was first team. Jordan James from Oregon was second team. Trayvon Henderson was third team. Kyle Monangai was
How
also
old
first
is
team.
Trayvon Henderson?
This is only his fourth year, but
Oh
he
my
started
god!
as a true freshman.
It
He's
just
like the
feels
first.
like he's been here for 8
Yeah, it's because he
years,
started as a true freshman,
and
but
he
like
look old.
he just straight like he's a traditional college kid. Came in 4 years, he's going pro. Woody Marks and Quinshawn Judkins rounded out running back. The first team wide receivers were Ty Felton from Maryland and Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State, followed by Pat Bryan and Tez Johnson in the second team, and Elijah Surratt and Emeka Egbuka in the third team. Ohio State.
Ty Felton is leaving.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Seth McLaughlin got center. Connor Kobe from Iowa got guard. Donovan Jackson got guard. Ariante Ursary from Minnesota and Josh Connolly Jr. got tackle. And Tyler Warren from Penn State got tight end.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think just about all of those make sense. I think just about all those make sense. On defense, the first team defensive line was Mikhail Kamara, Indiana. He was great. Mason Graham, Michigan. He was great. JT
Did he
Tuimoloau.
played a full season to even be considered? You know what? I'll hush.
Who?
I was gonna say Mason or Joshua, but Josiah. But I'll be quiet.
Yeah.
I know one of them sat out. I feel like.
Yeah. I can't remember.
But
And then Abdul Carter for Penn State, Kenneth Grant, Josiah Stewart, Mateo Uyangalele, and Jack Sawyer are second team. As much as I hate to say it, I think Mateo should have been first team. He had 10.5 sacks, but whatever. I don't want to be rude. Like, you just got to be realistic here. I think I love JT, but I think he got that out of respect of his career. I think that's a career award. I think Mateo, you could argue, was better. And this is not an Ohio State podcast, so I do need to say that. Gabe Jackus, Ty Robinson, Jordan Birch, and Derek Harmon are third team. Tyleek Williams is third team. I think he was probably in a tie. Linebackers, what the hell? Aiden Fisher, Jay Higgins, Cody Lindenberg, and Carson. Not even going to try that. Sonny Styles got second team, which is big for Ohio State.
Carson Switzinger. I think it's
Switzinger. Yeah. Bryce Bodicher, Sonny Styles, and Kobe King, second team. Cody Simon, Kane Madrano, and Carson Bruner, third team. And then defensive back, Lathan Ransom, Caleb Downs from Ohio State, Coy Parrish, who is a freshman, by the way. I don't know how the fuck Minnesota keeps doing it. That kid was also supposed to go to Ohio State, but he's a Minnesota kid. And this is the thing with college football, right? It's good when players stay home sometimes. And he was supposed to go to Ohio State. He wouldn't have started immediately at Ohio State because they had players. He would probably start next year. He goes to Minnesota. He starts immediately. He's first team All Big Ten as a freshman. Really good. And then D'Enzo Ponce from Indiana. Xavier Scott, another Minnesota safety who we've been talking about for a while. I think you really like him. Justin Wally, Theron Johnson, and Jalen Reed are second team. And then Sebastian Castro, Jamari Harris, AJ Harris, and Jalen Smith are third team. Yeah. Let's look at some awards. Let's see. Who is this? This is media. Whatever. Okay. So we don't care about that. Dylan Gabriel wins Offensive Player of the Year. Abdul Carter wins Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know if I agree with that. Jeremiah Smith wins Freshman of the Year. Kirk Signetti wins both Coach of the Year awards. There's one voted by the coaches, one voted by the media. Dylan Gabriel wins Quarterback of the Year. Jeremiah Smith wins Wide Receiver of the Year. Caleb Johnson wins Running Back of the Year. And Tyler Warren, Tight End. And Ariante Ursay wins Offensive Lineman. Any thoughts on any of those?
No. I think a lot of these I don't think these are too bad.
Yeah, I don't think Abdul Carter was the best defensive player this year. I don't think he was anywhere close, but I don't think that there
that
was
might be the
really,
only one.
I don't think that there was really a guy who like stood out like stats wise. So you have to give it to someone. But let me pull. Let's see. 2024. He finished with 10 sacks, 20 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles. Okay. That's a good season.
10
It
sacks,
doesn't
20
feel
tackles
like
for loss.
it doesn't feel like he did that. And I watched a lot of Penn State games, but
Yeah.
whatever. I guess 10 sacks, 20 tackles for loss. He got it. I'm not gonna hate on that. That's a good year.
That's a good year. 2
But
turnovers.
you watch Penn State. Did it feel like he did that?
No.
All right, so it's not just me.
But no, so here's my thing, right? There's been times where I've watched games and like I saw a player a few times in plays, and then you go look at their, especially defensive players, you should look at their stats, 15 tackles. You be like, I didn't see any of those. Like, so
I was watching.
I was watching this
that
game,
happen?
bro. When did he get? Because I saw 3 where it was 4 and 5, let alone 15.
Right. Yeah.
So, like I'm not surprised that stuff like that happens. It's just like I'm surprised where I'm like, how did I not see it? Even though I know for a fact I was watching it. I was like, because 10 sacks, I'm like, I don't even I would have thought Penn State didn't even have 10 sacks as a team.
I'm saying,
but apparently he had 10 on his own. Like you probably go look at their team sacks, you're like, damn, they probably got like 20, 25 as a team. You're like, didn't see them, but okay.
Well, now I'm gonna tell you because I watched them. They were not their pass rush was not great this year. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to look at the stats. I'm not gonna hate on that based on the stats that they just told me. Yeah, that makes sense. But that's... I can tell you right now, I did not see that. I did not see that at all.
They probably, as a team, probably got a bunch, and you're like, wow, where were they?
Hold on, wait, what? Hold
on. Wait, what?
There we go. Okay, this doesn't make sense.
How many, bro? What does it say they have?
They had 32 sacks. It's fourth in the Big Ten.
Yep. That sounds 32. I'm going to go with Indiana. I'm going to go with Indiana, Ohio State, and I'm going to throw out a wild card and say like Michigan or Washington.
No. Close.
Is it? Okay.
It's Oregon.
Okay. I didn't think it was Oregon either.
So Oregon had a guy who had 10.5 sacks. I will be clear. At least 6 of them came against nobodies because he had 3 sacks against like the worst team that they played. He had it doesn't matter. He finished with 10.5 sacks. And then their other guy who was injured finished with like 8 or something like that. Okay. But yeah, Oregon's 1 with 39. Ohio State's 2 with 35. Indiana is 3 with 34. And then Penn State was 4th with 32. I don't remember that.
I tell you like this. I watched a lot of Oregon and Ohio State games. 39 and 37 is something I didn't see either.
So Ohio State, that number makes sense to me. Their linebackers got a lot of sacks.
No, here's
a lot of blitzing.
I'm not even talking about the position that's getting the sacks. Whereas there was like the one game I saw where they got to the quarterback and like you're like, okay, that's probably where the sacks came from. Indiana. Like there are games or two where they'll get.
They had 5 against Indiana, I think.
Yeah, but there's games where I'm like, I swear I didn't see that many for them to have 38. 5. I think it's 35. Like I didn't
think they got a single sack against Oregon. So
like I didn't see 35 sacks. I saw sacks, just not 35 of them. And it would be the same thing with Penn State. I saw 4 sacks in the entire season.
Yeah.
But
But it was
32
39.
apparently.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know where Penn State's 32 came from.
Oregon's. I saw a lot of Oregons, and I still wouldn't have given you 39.
No.
So hey.
Also, somebody's stats are wrong. Oh, it's only 0.5 off. It's only 4.5 off. The Big Ten has Abdul Carter at 10 sacks, 19 and a half tackles for loss. It's only 0.5 off. I'm also looking at this, trying to figure out how JT Tuimoloau got first team defense, but I'm not going to hate on him. I like him. He's a Buckeye. I'm not going to go too far. Whatever.
Like, I don't know, man.
Looking at the stats. Okay, let's finish this up. Abdul Carter wins Defensive Lineman of the Year. Jay Higgins at Iowa wins Butkus Linebacker of the Year. Caleb Downs wins Defensive Back of the Year. I'm not doing a special. I guess I'll do it, but I really don't care. Michigan's kicker wins Kicker of the Year. USC's punter wins Punter of the Year.
That and you know what?
That's Iowa's returner wins Returner of the Year.
That is a testament to what Iowa USC turned into.
Yeah.
That is a testament that your punter won an award. While it's a great
award, the only one, like nobody else at USC.
That's what I'm saying. Like, while it's a great award, like it's great to win an award as a team and as an offense, you're sitting there like, our punter was out there so much that he was able to win an award. That's how I would look at it.
Okay.
You shouldn't, but I know I would. That's how I would look at it. Dang.
I do agree with you. Okay. There are 66 first, second, and third team players. It's really like 68 because there's a couple ties. How many of the 68, let's say 68, do you think USC had?
One.
I know we went through it, but we went fast. It's more than one.
USC had more than one? All right, 3.
Close. It's 4. And none of them got.
Well, obviously the punter.
Oh, what? I didn't do special teams.
Special teams. Okay.
Yeah, that was too much to scroll. Woody Marks and their offensive guard got second team. Their center got third team.
Wow, any offensive lineman from USC being on there is crazy.
Yeah, but I think that offensive lineman's weird. I think they vote you if they know your name, and I know those people. I knew those players' names.
Yeah, but my thing is just like, how many sacks are you giving up? How many pressures are you giving up? How many push off the ball? How many because I think rushing yards should be a lineman stat and a running back stat. Yeah.
Well, if you're doing the rushing yards thing, they did okay because Woody Marks was second team, all Big Ten in running as a running back. But yeah,
okay, then that's fair. We could break it down if you're going to be a guard. How much rushing yards were you able to contribute in up the middle?
Yeah,
like stuff like that. That's like because I know. For the past 2 years, them quarterbacks is running for their lives in USC. So
you would be correct.
So I wouldn't put them third team. I'd look at Michigan. I'd look at Iowa. Like for third teams. If we really go do this, hold up. I would look at because I gotta bring it back up.
Rutgers probably has a couple on there, but
I would look at Illinois if we're gonna do this. Minnesota. I'd look at Washington over USC players for O-line because again, like that O-line.
There's only one Rutgers offensive lineman on this list.
Because my thing is like
Penn State I look at it like lineman on this list, and Penn State's offensive line was not good.
They were better than USC's.
Oh yeah. Yeah, whatever.
Just objectively, it was better. That's why I was saying I would take multiple players from other schools to fill out that roster before I start looking at USC offensive linemen. Like I would have 3 Penn State players before I would start looking at USC linemen.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. Today was early signing day. They moved it up 2 weeks because the calendar was rough. Still rough, but whatever.
Yeah.
18 teams, 17 of them finished 61 or higher. Just decent. One team finished lower than 61. If you have not already looked at it, which maybe you're looking at it now, can you guess who the one team is?
Is this the Big Ten?
Yes. 18 teams, 17 finished 61 or higher nationally in recruiting. One team was lower than 61. Can you guess?
I'm going to either say Michigan or Northwestern.
You are close. Northwestern is at 61.
Okay.
The last team is Purdue, and they're at 104. That's another reason he was getting fired. Mm-hmm. And granted, you could say they probably lost some people because he got fired, but
and then it didn't help that they went 0 for or 1 for.
Yeah.
Oh, that didn't help at all.
Yep. So last time I looked at this. This is so the national rank on some of these is off, I believe, but this is at the time that I looked at it. This was at 4:00. I think at 4:00 this was pretty solid, but I think that Oregon may have landed another commitment since then. Oregon has the number 1 class in the Big Ten, number 4 nationally. Again, this was as of 4 p.m. Do not at me and say it's different now. Ohio State was number 2 in the conference, number 5 nationally. Michigan was 3 in the conference, 7 nationally. USC was 4 in the conference, 13. Penn State was 5, 17.
You know what? I don't even know why I said Michigan. It probably went up and got higher after
5-star quarterback.
Weekend. Yeah, the 5-star quarterback, and then after this weekend, I
don't think they got anyone new, but the 5-star. I mean, they were low, and then the 5-star quarterback they jumped.
Yeah, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, Penn State's number 17 in the country. That is not good for them. Nebraska's number 21. That is really good for them. Washington is 7th in the conference, 23 nationally. Wisconsin is 8th, 25th nationally. Maryland is 9th, 27 nationally. Rutgers is 10th, 29th nationally. That is pretty good for Rutgers. UCLA is 11th, 37 nationally. UCLA had so many players flip.
I believe it.
They had a quarterback and a wide receiver flip to Auburn. They had a defensive lineman flip to Ohio State. Those are just the ones I remember. I know they had much more. They lost like 6 or 7 people today. Iowa finishes 12th, 39th overall. Illinois finishes 13th, 43 overall. Indiana finishes 14th, 44 overall. That is very surprising.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it because he's a good coach, but a lot of his success this year was off the backs of the transfer portal from his old program. And so, buddy, from everything that they've said, they've opened the coffers a little bit. You need to have better than the 44th best class. It's your first year. We'll let it slide. But next year, you need to be high 30s. Like, you can't be at 44. Minnesota is 15 at 51. Michigan State 16 at 57. That is not great for them. They do not love that. But first year, the coach, maybe they fix it. Northwestern is 17 at 61. And then again, Purdue is 18 at 104 nationally. So, Oregon and Ohio State, as you expect. Michigan's a minor surprise. Michigan's class is not deep, though. So it's one of it's an interesting thing. USC and Penn State are lower than you would want and expect. Nebraska should be very happy with 21. I'm not going to lie to you. If they can keep their quarterback, I think Nebraska could potentially be something next year. Not like Indiana something this year, but like who went 9-3? Rutgers went 9-3.
Oh, I was going to say Rutgers or Illinois.
No, it wasn't Rutgers. Illinois. Thank you. Illinois. They could be somewhere around there. Any thoughts on Big Ten standings, awards, rankings, or the bowl eligible teams?
No. Besides the other things, I've given my whole spiel on the bowl eligible. I don't care about awards.
Yeah,
I don't. Like it's nice, they're great to have, but I don't have enough opinion to start talking about awards.
Fair enough. So,
all right, I changed my pit stop and I was going to look because I was trying to look at their record, and bro, the score the Lakers are playing currently right now, like playing Miami.
Oh my god,
bro. Nah, go ahead, take a guess. Take a guess what the score is, brother.
I mean, I have no way to guess what the score is, but I'm guessing they're down like 18.
Oh, that would be sweet. That would be nice.
I don't want to know.
They're down 41.
What?
132 to 91.
Ooh, God. Are they playing? Okay. Well, let's move on. Let's wrap this up. We only have 2 more things to do before we get to our pit stops. The college football playoff rankings, the penultimate rankings dropped. This means that 11 of the 12 teams that we're going to list in the top 12 are probably going to make it in. And there's 1 or 2 spots max that's open. Oregon's number 1, Texas is number 2, Penn State's number 3. Notre Dame is 4, Georgia's 5, Ohio State is 6. I would argue Ohio State should be ahead of Georgia. That doesn't matter. Tennessee is 7. Ohio State absolutely should have been ahead of Tennessee. If you've been on social media, you would see that Tennessee fans threw an absolute fit when people mentioned over the weekend that Ohio State may be ahead of them. Ohio State has 2 top 5 wins. Get over it. You're in the playoffs. Just be happy. SMU is 8. Indiana is 9. Boise State is 10. Alabama is 11. Which is very interesting because this ranking, that would make them the last team to get in, and that means they would get in over 10-2 Miami.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to say one thing. I don't want Alabama in the playoffs, personally. But because everyone knows here that I do enjoy being right occasionally. It is so good for the brand, for Miami and their head coach, who I said was a loser from day one because he always fails to meet his expectations, for them to go into this season, everyone expecting them to win the ACC, everyone expecting them to make the playoffs, and for him to lose the 1-2 games in his last 3 weeks, and then ultimately lose the 1 game that he could not lose, and they missed the playoffs.
That'd be sad.
And I have some minor ill will against Miami because they've taken a bunch of Ohio State recruits in the last couple of years and then did nothing with them. But whatever.
Taking Ohio State recruits. I don't want to go. I'd rather be in Miami than Ohio too, bro.
Yeah, whatever. I just think it's hilarious. That like everyone's like, oh my God, this coach and Cam Ward and all this recruiting and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, yes, but look at Oregon now. Look at where Oregon was previously. The difference is the coach. This coach loses big games. Him and Ryan Day. But Ryan Day wins more games, but this guy also loses. So it would just be hilarious for them to lose the game that they shouldn't have lost and miss the 12-team playoff entirely.
It would be nuts.
And be the last team out. Like be right there. That would be quite funny. But at this point, as we predicted, as we thought, the Big Ten is going to get 4 teams in. They're going to get Oregon. They're going to get Penn State. They're going to get Ohio State. They're going to get Indiana. That is the way it should be. The SEC is going to get somehow they're going to find a way to get 4 teams in because Alabama's going to get in.
Alabama's going to get in, so that makes 4.
Yeah. And then
Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, and
Bama. Yeah.
And Bama. Oh, wait. SMU is part of the SEC, though, right?
No, ACC.
ACC? Okay, I had to make sure.
Yep. So we will find out on Sunday the official playoff ranking. We will find out who is hosting, and we will know when the games are. Speaking of Sunday, as we wrap up the show, you will know on Sunday because the championship games are played on Saturday. This is a Big Ten podcast. The Big Ten championship is Oregon, Penn State. have kind of gotten away from doing like heavy game previews this year, so we won't do it this time. It's just not been the structure of the show. But what are your thoughts on Oregon Penn State?
I think it's an interesting matchup. I was curious as to who they were going to pick to play against Oregon, whether it be Indiana or Penn State. I was very curious on that because both of their losses are to the same team.
Yep, it came
So,
down to Penn State played better teams in conference.
okay, that's fair. That's fair. I just didn't know where they were going to go with it. Since we're not going to go into too in depth,
I mean,
think
you
this.
can, but like,
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a grinded out game. I think we're going to see an Ohio State, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon game. I think we're going to get that type of game. I think it's going to be the most points scored by a team will be 21 in that game. I think we're going to see a lot of. I think this will be the game where we see a lot of fun plays. We're going to see like how Penn State played against USC.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see that a lot of trick plays and stuff like that in this game from both teams. Because I know Oregon loves to do some weird stuff because they have all those athletes.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna get a good fun game that won't somehow, some way, because it's the Big Ten and it's football, won't result in a lot of points, but a lot of highlights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I agree with that. I think this is a very interesting game. I wish it didn't come at the expense of Ohio State. But Oregon and Penn State didn't play each other this year, and so I think that this is going to be a fun game.
This is the chance for that to actually happen.
I have no idea how this game is going to go because, like,
that's why I said I think it's going to be like what we've seen between Ohio State, even Michigan and Ohio State. Yeah. It's going to be close because this is legit. Like when we saw the 2 to 3 best teams in the Big Ten play each other, nothing really happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's just going to happen here. Not much happened in the Penn State Ohio State game. Like it was exciting. A lot happened, but at the same time, not much happened in those games.
Yeah.
Not much happened in the Ohio State Oregon game.
Yeah, this is the worst analysis ever because it's just so pure football.
Yeah,
but
this is going to be a football game, yo.
It's going to be the team who rushes the ball the best and who gets the most pressure on the quarterback.
Who has the ball? Who has the ball longest? Yeah, whoever has the ball the longest is going to win this game and can finish drives.
Yeah,
whoever finishes the most.
That is going to be yeah. This is very much going to be a game where holding a team to field goals is going to be a win.
Yeah. Whoever gets the first touchdown probably wins the game.
Yeah, and
you're probably going to be the only one to get the touchdown. That's going to be the only touchdown of the game. And then we say that we're going to.
I don't think it's going to be that bad. Yeah, I think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be as bad as you just said, but I do think it is going to be pretty low scoring. Like I think it's going to be lower scoring than the Ohio State Penn State game.
The one thing lower than that, and I fully believe.
No. Sorry, Ohio State Oregon. Ohio State Oregon.
That's what I'm saying. Like I truly believe it's like whoever scores one touchdown can win the game. I think it's going to be closer to what Ohio State Michigan just was.
3 of the top 4 sack getters in the conference are in this game.
Yeah.
So as boring as it is, but it is very true.
They're top in what these defense in the Big Ten. Both these defenses is top in pass rush, takeovers and stuff like that, right? Both of these defenses for at least the Big Ten. I'm not even trying to say the full country. If I could put out a guess.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, this is players. Let's see. Teams. As we talked about, Oregon is 1, Penn State is 4 in sacks. Penn State is 2, Oregon is 3 in tackles for loss. Penn State is 4, Oregon is 8 in interceptions, but it's only a difference of 2.
Oh, so there's ties in there. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Penn State is technically second, but tied for 4th with defensive touchdowns. Oregon only has 1 defensive touchdown. Oregon is 3rd with forced fumbles. Penn State is 9th. This is a long way of saying these are good defenses.
Yeah, these are the top. These are
it's bad analysis. It's
top 10.
Yeah,
in almost every category that tells with defense going against each
Yeah.
other. Good offenses. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say great. I think Oregon might have a great offense. Penn State's a good offense.
Yeah. It's very boring analysis. It's not bad analysis because it's true. It's boring analysis. But this game is going to be won on who can get the most pressure on the quarterback because neither one of these quarterbacks make a lot of mistakes. So whoever can get the most pressure on the quarterbacks and who can rush the ball.
Very true. Both of these quarterbacks do not turn the ball over. That is very true. So yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to be an entertaining game, but I think it's going to be close in like a stalemate for a very long time. Like I said about Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah. Drew Aller threw the second least number of interceptions in the conference at 5, and Dylan Gabriel threw technically the third least. There's a bunch of ties at 6. So again, they don't throw a whole lot of interceptions. Yeah, it's boring, but it's true. Whoever can run the ball and whoever gets the most pressure on the quarterback and can force one of these quarterbacks to make a mistake. A sack fumble would be huge in this game. Am I gonna do it? I'm not. Oregon's gonna go undefeated.
Yeah, probably.
I'm not gonna pick James Franklin in this game. Oregon's gonna go undefeated, but it's gonna be a good game. So that's all. We'll go to our pit stops. As you all know, this is the I-80 football show. We are traveling down I-80. This is a road trip through the Big Ten. So with your pit stops, sometimes you have to take a break, whether that is for gas, whether that's to use the bathroom, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You have to take a pit stop. I, for like the first time in forever, don't have a pit stop. I couldn't come up with anything. But what is yours?
Mine is just to let you know that I told you about these Lakers. You got your hopes up and got excited about.
Whoa.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. All right, my bad. You tried to have me talk positive about a team for no complete reason whatsoever.
Okay, I'll accept that. Got excited is a bit far.
I tried to let you know. You're like, y'all. I forget you're negative, and there was a reason why. We brought back the exact same team that didn't play defense last year, and we expected them to play defense a year older, technically also a year younger because we drafted 2 rookies, and then we have a rookie head coach. We are 12-10 going into Christmas soon, and we just got blown out by that was 9-10, but now 10-10 Miami Heat by 41 points. If I do the math correctly, 134 minus 93 is 41. 41 points. And you know how bad I know this probably is. If I go and look, I bet you Jimmy Butler didn't even play.
I'm weak.
I bet you.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Not you tweeting about light-skinned women at the end of the podcast. And I will make my pit stop. I did think
there's a devil.
Super cool. Paige Beckers is the first college athlete to be able to design a Nike shoe as a player exclusive. I just thought that was cool. Paige is great, really good. She's great. She's awesome, and she's playing well. So, that should
don't do the same thing they did
anyone, but every once in a while you get those players.
Oh, they don't do the same thing they did.
What are you saying?
New York with the New York Liberty or whatever. No, Sabrina.
Oh, Sabrina.
Her. Did you see? Have you seen her signature shoe? It's a Kobe design. Yeah, like that's what I was saying. Like I hope they don't do that.
We talked about it before. Yeah,
it's just a Kobe design.
Hate to see it. All right. Well, that is it. We will catch you next week after the.
Also, your boy. Before we get out of here, I want to add to my pit stop. Your boy did exactly what he wanted this year, and that was just to get that one little moment with his son on the court, and he is phoning it in. The last game he shot 9. I think it was like 4 for 20 something. At 10 points, bruh.
I think the funniest thing is that he's at least keeping his streak of double-digit games, even when he's playing bad. This means nothing to me. I want to get off this podcast, so I won't get drawn into a LeBron debate. But I will.
I didn't even know how bad it was, but I saw somebody tweet, "Y'all really talking trash about this man," and they posted a picture of LeBron and his family, and I was like, "Oh no, it's bad. It's really bad." Once you start doing that, it's bad.
Yeah. Well, this is hopefully LeBron's last year.
Jesus Christ, please.
Okay,
Just,
that was a
bit
aggressive.
It's not even like for like I want him to retire. So it's at what
it's just time.
It's time. You're taking up space. You are at this point. You're taking up space, and you're ruining. You're making it hard for a franchise to make a decision. You're making it hard because we're in win now because we have you on our team. Even though it makes no sense to be in win now mode when you're 42 or however old he is. It makes no sense. But yes, he should. It's time. It is so time to retire. You look tired on the court. You shouldn't have never played in the Olympics.
Well, anyways, we will catch you next week. When we record next week, we will know officially who's in the playoffs. We will know all the Big Ten teams in the bowl games, and we will know the Big Ten championship. So that'll be a good game, a good episode. We'll catch you next week.